start the meeting of the Planning Committee. I'll read out the notice at the beginning. For the purpose of public transparency and accountability, the meeting will be live streamed online. Details of how to access the live stream will be made available on the Council's website. For health and safety reasons and in accordance with our risk assessment, members of the public are asked to follow the meeting via this method, and they will not be able to attend this meeting physically in person. Members of the public wishing to speak at the meeting will be able to do so remotely, and details of how to do this have been provided, and registrations for speakers have been received. Can I have apologies for absence, please? I understand Councillor Mackenzie has given his apologies.
Yeah, apologies have been received from Councillor Mackenzie and there is no substitute.
Thank you. Now, does anybody have any interest to declare? Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have been lobbied on items 6, 7 and 8, personal, non-pecuniary, non-prejudicial.
Councillor Cleary.
Item 6, 7 and 8, purely personal, non-prejudicial, non-pecuniary.
Councillor Thackeray.
Yeah, I've been lobbied on the ATA application. I'm sorry, I can't get it on my screen to tell you what number it is. 8.
Councillor.
Multiple emails from people in Sproxton.
Councillor Mason.
I think I'm the same as everyone else. Item 6, 7, 8, non-personal.
Councillor Windress.
Same for me, Chairman, 6, 7 and 8.
Oh dear me! I really am sorry. Names were never my strong point. Councillor Goodrick.
Chairman, items 6, 7 and 8, personal, non-prejudicial.
Yeah, and I would also declare on 6, 7 and 8 as well. So we then come to the minutes of the last. Are there any other? Sorry, beg your pardon. And 9, right. Right. Has everybody read the minutes? Can I have somebody to propose the minutes, please? So that's seconded, proposed by Councillor Goodrick, seconded by Councillor Cleary. Do we all agree? Urgent business. I have no urgent business. We now come to the schedule of items to be determined by the committee. And the first item is Sproxton Hall Farm, Main Street, Helmsley, which is the planning application, where we've had a site meeting. Members have been to this site and have visited it. We've had a presentation at the previous meeting 2 months ago. Are members content that we are happy for the planning officer to simply give us an update rather than do a full presentation? Is that all right? So could you go ahead, please, Gary?
Thank you, Chairman. As members will remember, this application was considered at the May meeting of the Planning Committee and was deferred at that meeting to enable the applicants to submit further information. And as you'll have seen from the update in the committee report on page 10, we got further information from the agent on the 11th of June, about a month after the committee, and some additional information from Ryedale testing in response to Apex Acoustics report, and also an acoustic report and noise data which was received on the 15th of June. You will also have seen with the agenda papers on the late pages a number of additional documents, and they are, I'm just find my late pages now, Chair, which I've put down. Yeah. On the late pages, which covers pages 2 to 39 of the late pages, what you have on the late pages, starting on page 3 of the Environmental Health Officer's response to the further information received. Also a fairly detailed letter from Rollitz, and I think the author of that letter is registered to speak tonight, Chairman, Mr Lum. And also some additional letters received from third parties. Some of those letters from Mrs Oliver and Mr Blackburn further objecting to the application. There is also a letter of support from a lady whose name is Anne Speed. And I think, well, hopefully members had a chance to read that further information. I also, Chairman, have had this morning, at 11 o'clock this morning, a further representation from the agent, including some further photographs of the village street leading to the site. You'll see some of those photographs are showing the areas where some of the passing places were proposed to be constructed in the village street. And in addition, there was also a document, again a further document from Ryedale testing in relation to the Environmental Health Officer's comments on the late pages. Now clearly, Chairman, we only got these at 11 o'clock this morning, so you'll appreciate the EHOs have had very little chance to do a rigorous assessment of this information, but in essence, as you'll have seen from, and I think members have all got copies of all this information, you'll have seen that the further information relating to traffic noise in relation to nighttime and daytime activities and also what's referred to as external crowd sound levels have been considered by the Council's Environmental Health Officer, whose comments objecting to the application still stand, Chairman. In essence, the big concern here is that this information is averaging out the noise impacts over an hour period. So in essence, it's losing the peaks. And so, for example, if you lived in a house and a car went past, you'd feel the peak of the noise of the car going past, but this is averaging that out. So the disturbance effect is sort of mellowing out the peaks. So as I say, we've had relatively little time to really do a thorough analysis of this, Chairman. We've only had it a matter of hours. But the Environmental Health Officer's comments objecting to the scheme still stand. I think to point out the main change to the recommendation since the recommendation in May is that you will have seen that the local highway authority have withdrawn their objection to the proposal purely on highway safety grounds. So that objection has been withdrawn. But the remaining two reasons for refusal relating to noise and disturbance and also the impact of the engineering of the passing spaces on the village of Sproxton within the AONB remain. So officers are still recommending refusal for the two reasons set out in the agenda papers. I'm aware that we've got 4 speakers on this item, Chairman, so I'll be quiet now unless members wish me to take them through the presentation photographs which I presented last time.
Sorry, Chairman, I was remiss. I should declare that I am a member of the AONB Joint Committee at North Yorkshire County Council. It is personal and non-prejudicial and non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Can we go to the speakers then, please? I believe the first speaker is Mr. George Skinner, the Chair of the Parish Council. In that case, can we go to the second speaker, who is Mr. Simon Welford?
Sorry, Chairman. I don't think any of them are connected from Sproxton. Nobody's connected. Right. In these arrangements, Chairman, I've sort of in the past read out the speeches. At the moment, it would appear that nobody from Sproxton's actually linked into the meeting. So, if you wish me to read out the speeches, I think that's probably the fairest thing that can be done. I'll do them in running order. No, I'll just read them out, I think, Lee. Thank you. I'm glad I got my water bottle. Andy. Right, Chairman, I'll start with Mr. George Skinner, who's chairman of the parish meeting. I've been a Sproxton resident and worked in the local community for more than 30 years. At the 4 parish meetings held in the subject, the overwhelming majority, 89% at the last meeting, objected to the application. My main points today centre on the threat to the character of our village, the impact of the proposals on highway safety capacity and damage to our local amenities and villagers' well-being. Sproxton is a close-knit community. Villages, a mix of young families, working people and retirees, some in their 90s, value this and its rurality and tranquility. We have one and only one village street. It's central to Sproxton's character and its place in the AONB. For villagers, the street is much more than an access road. It is our pavement. We walk our dogs, ride our horses and use it as a social space. We stand in the road to chat to neighbours. We use it to access the public bridle way and Ebor way, and for social events such as VE Day celebrations, scarecrow competitions and carol singing. If this large-scale proposal goes ahead, this unique character and street scene will be lost forever. The proposed road widening is an unwelcome consequence of the application. It does not address our concerns about the significant increase in traffic and the impact on highway safety. This has been continually ignored by the applicant. Surely road safety is paramount and must be addressed as well as highway capacity. The Highways Officer gives a very guarded assessment of the possible success of the road widening. He accepts that large delivery vehicles would still obstruct the free flow of traffic, although the applicant states this would rarely happen. However, there is no mains gas in the village, so all properties need regular deliveries of oil, LPG or solid fuel. Many deliveries and farming traffic use the street. Vehicles park on wider parts of the street, and this is likely to increase with road widening. If this proposal with its associated increase in traffic, noise and disruption goes ahead, it would have a significant negative impact on residential amenity and villagers' mental well-being, as well as detrimentally impacting the character of this village within the AONB. Conference and wedding guests and service vehicles to and from Sproxton Hall bring a potential of 100 plus vehicles for each function. During the day and early hours would be wholly disruptive. Many residents' bedrooms are little more than 3 to 10 metres from the road. Guests at Sproxton Hall cottages will also suffer noise from the venue and dozens of revellers' cars after midnight. This would destroy a thriving holiday business centred on providing a tranquil setting for their guests. In conclusion, for Sproxton villagers, this is not just a planning application. We fear for the future of our quiet rural village and the huge impact on our lives. Our concerns are genuine and should be not dismissed as irrelevant. We are not NIMBYs, and in recent weeks have supported other local planning applications. I've never experienced such a depth of feeling in the village in my 3 decades of living here. Following the planning officer's recommendation and refuse this application, we have had nearly a year of uncertainty and worry, and we urge you to bring this to a conclusion. So that's the response from Mr. Skinner. The next one is Mr. Welford, who's a supporter. Are we still not got anybody? No. Thank you, Chairman. This is from Simon Welford, a supporter of the application. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments in support of the application. I am a Sproxton resident for 14 years and I'm incredibly proud of Helmsley and thoroughly enjoy living in beautiful Ryedale. I feel privileged to do so with my family. But I am very concerned about the future of our district as a place for young people to grow up. If they are to live and work locally, there must be opportunities created for them to do so. We can't just become a chocolate box tourist attraction or a retirement community. We must have a strong, diverse local economy. Today, the local economy is not in good shape. Let's look at 2 of the 3 biggest sectors of the economy, both of which relate to this application. Agriculture, the largest at nearly 40% of the economy, is going through a period of great uncertainty, Brexit, food standards legislation, loss of direct funding or subsidies, leading to bigger farms. Small farms are selling up and being consolidated. There are few new entrants coming into farming. Farmers are being encouraged to diversify to sustain their businesses. Accommodation and food services is the 3rd biggest at 14% of the economy. Helmsley today doesn't look its best. There are many empty shops in part caused by COVID, but many will simply not reopen. Some hotels and restaurants will also not reopen. a real concern about the sustainability of commercial shooting, a highly important part of the local economy. The number one priority of RDC and the planning department must be to stimulate economic growth and give direction as to how the local economy should be developed in the future, including how farmers should seek to diversify. This project is an outstanding opportunity that does exactly that, as shown by its economic impact model. It generates an annual cash injection of 2.5 million into the local economy, and taking the multiplier effect into account, that could become 3.5 million to 5 million, so it becomes a very significant part of the local economy. The business model is location hire only, requiring to be serviced by a deep-rooted local supply chain, caterers, bar staff, entertainers, musicians, florists, photographers, hairdressers and bakers all will benefit from providing services. This means jobs for Ryedale residents totalling 8 jobs. Sproxton Hall wedding venue is designed to become a destination wedding venue attracting wedding parties from across the UK who would otherwise choose, for example, Cornwall, Scotland or the Lakes. This is a massive economic stimulus to Helmsley and Ryedale, befitting hotels, restaurants and local services. There are 4 strong reasons to support this project. Sustainability of farming operations at Sproxton Hall, very important economic impact with a cash injection between 2.5 to 5 million per annum, 8 jobs for local residents, ensuring our children can work locally, and the marketing of Ryedale as a great place to visit and a great place to get married. Thank you. And then the next one is a letter from Mr. Stuart Lum, who's an associate solicitor of Rollitz LLP. I think the LLP letter is in the late pages as well, who is instructed to speak on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Boddy. The key material objections to the proposed development identified by my clients and the overwhelming majority of Sproxton residents are noise and the impact on the character of this tranquil rural village in the AONB. Noise. Due to the very low ambient background noise levels in this village and the elevated position of the site, the proposed development would result in a significant noise disturbance to all residents. External event noise and traffic noise cannot be successfully mitigated against, especially during the daytime and early evening when residents enjoy the peace of their gardens and walks along the village street. Noise generated at night or in the early hours would cause considerable sleep disturbance for residents and have a negative impact on their mental well-being. The village objectors collectively commissioned Apex Acoustics, nationally recognised noise consultants, to carry out a technical review of the applicant's noise assessments. Each time, Apex concluded that the noise report contained substantial errors, inaccuracies, omissions and major shortcomings, including too low music source levels for the venue type, underestimated crowd noise, understated maximum noise levels, especially at night, and an unjustified change in the background noise since the first report. Villagers accept a level of agricultural noise as part of living in a rural community. The characteristic noise from the venue would be vastly different and in any case would be cumulative, adding to the existing agricultural noise, which is white noise. Event noise would be people and intermittent music from the opening of doors and windows, as well as guests gathering outside on a summer's evening. The noise management plan proposed is aspirational and not practically achievable or enforceable. There is also reliance on guests being encouraged to enter the building immediately on arrival and keeping doors and windows shut. The EHO states, experience tells that these controls are not always followed and in reality are unenforceable. The EHO has reviewed all of the reports submitted and concluded on numerous occasions that the changes under the proposed development cannot be suitably mitigated and would have a significant negative impact on local residents, stating disturbance to the residential properties caused from cars leaving the venue late at night and travelling out of the village will not be reduced to an acceptable level. As a result, they recommend refusal. Conclusion, as both the EHO and planning officers have expressed grave and substantial concerns relating to the adverse impact on noise and character and appearance of the village within the AONB, contrary to what policies SP13 and SP20 of the Ryedale local plan, this application must be refused. Approval would result in wholly adverse and unacceptable consequences that would, as described by the EHO, have a significant negative impact on local residents' quality of life, amenities and enjoyment of their properties. And the last speaker, Chairman, is from, it's unnamed, but I think this is from Mr. Wainwright, Mr. Henry Wainwright. Good evening, Chair, officers and members. My name is Henry Wainwright and I work alongside my father and until recently my grandfather at Sproxton Hall. We're a mixed farm, mainly arable. Due to the uncertainty of agriculture arising from our departure from the EU, we needed to diversify our business to make it sustainable for my future and future generations. The proposed plan seeks to revitalise a range of historic farm buildings that are falling into disrepair due to the fact they are unsuitable for modern agriculture. They would be sympathetically restored, keeping their charm and character in line with planning policies and the MPPF. The building conservation is supportive of us repurposing the buildings. The proposed passing places, 2 of which are on the village street, will have no detrimental impact on the AONB. One is 40 centimetres in width, the other is 105 centimetres in width. There will be a continuation of the tarmac road blending seamlessly into what is already a mix of tarmac, concrete, gravel and block paved driveways. The other 3 passing places are on the private road, one of which is already a hard standing. The other 2 will be constructed so that they blend into their surroundings in line with NYCC highways, who have worked with us to achieve the appropriate safeguarding measures. The AONB officer has had no objections to these passing places. Presently, we farm 1,500 pigs in open sheds adjacent to the proposed venue. This enterprise is a 24-hour operation all year round with a huge amount of HGV and associated car traffic coming and going at random times. In the 24 years we have reared pigs, we have never had a complaint about the impact of the noise and traffic through the village street. I'd like to refer you to the late pages which list all these traffic movements. The pig traffic will stop if the planning is approved. We commissioned a detailed noise survey. This was to record live traffic noise through Village Street as well as the noise generated on the outside paved area and its impact on the neighbouring holiday cottage business. I would refer you to the recent Ryedale testing report which details this information. A crowd noise speaker was recently set up to replicate 100 people in the outside paved area. 3 people witnessed the test and verified independently where the noise could not be heard. This location was in fact at a safe distance of 50 metres away from the holiday cottage business. We would like to invite all members on a site visit where we can replicate this test if needed. With the remaining highway and noise issues now overcome, we would ask that members overturn the recommendation of refusal in favour of this sustainable development venue. Thank you for your time today. Just as a final comment, Chairman, I think the applicant sort of drifted on to probably comments about item 7, which was about the listed building consent for the alterations to the physical fabric of the building, to which there is no objection. Officers are recommending approval of that application. But obviously this is in relation to the planning application and the proposed use of the building, which is item 6.
Right. Are there any questions? Then if there are no questions, can we move into debate? I think this is Councillor Windruss's area, is it not?
It is, Chairman, thank you. Firstly, can I thank the officers for a very comprehensive report. If members can remember the site visit, I think it was either October or November last year, if anyone didn't know how narrow the street down the village of Sproxton is, well, we soon found out. When I was driving there were 2 lorries delivering either gas or oil, and I managed to get by with a struggle. And unfortunately, the highways officer turned up after the site visit had finished, so he probably missed that anyway. Had he been on time, he maybe wouldn't have changed his mind so easily. As we have heard, there are no footpaths on the main street, so there is a danger, especially at night, to the residents. Mr. Welford was stating there that there are many closed shops in Elmsley. Well, this is not true. And the Black Swan Hotel is only closed at the moment due to having a refurb, so make of that what you like. I cannot support this application. I agree wholeheartedly with the officer's reasons for refusal. And I must once again say how disappointed I am that North Yorkshire Highways have removed their objection. But the residents of Sproxton's amenity must be protected, and I will move officer recommendation of refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cleary. Do you wish to speak now?
Yes, please, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, and I wish to echo Snowy's comments on the officer's report, which is very difficult and very comprehensive. I'm seconding this. It's a great shame that we have to, but it's one of these things. It's not on balance, and it's an overwhelming recommendation for refusal. The upheaval to Sproxton would be just too great. It's been mentioned that the highways have removed their objections. They're safety objections, not common sense objections. I'm not suggesting that highways is not common sense, but what their problem, what they have to look at is safety. And basically, if you've got hundreds of vehicles blocking the street, not going anywhere, it's not much of a safety risk, but it is overwhelming and environmental, and the noise and inconvenience would be just overwhelming. The residents have put a lot of time and effort into studying this. They've also mentioned in, which you'll find in your papers on page 142, a comment about alternate access. So they have looked at ways of enabling this to happen in some other way, and it's, I wonder whether the applicant would actually look at alternate access, because other than the traffic, it is an outstanding application, and all other things being equal, it would be something we'd enjoy looking at and benefiting the area. But it is an overwhelming problem. The traffic, many hundreds of vehicles, if the business had been successful, which would be attracting hundreds of vehicles, is just not on. So I'm very, although I'm not happy to turn this down, because farming does need help, farming does need diversification, but not at the expense of an entire local community. So I'm quite content to second the recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. I am pleased my colleagues have taken the route they've taken by supporting the officeman recommendation. Noise is a very sensitive issue, and I have experienced a similar situation in my own business where we had noise issues. Having said that, you can mitigate some of that noise, but I don't believe that this application can mitigate it enough to make it acceptable. I'll give you an example. Sandburn Hall, which is a mile away from where I live, is a very busy wedding venue entertainment centre. And when it's quiet, late at night, the villagers can hear that music coming across the countryside. That's a mile away. So a venue like this, right on the doorstep, with all the vehicle movements that would be going on, would be simply unacceptable for the residents. The loss of amenity and tranquility would be huge. And certainly in our own village at Sandhutton, we've had the anaerobic digester, and we've had tractors going through at 1:30 in the morning, waking the residents because of vehicle movements. So I can't see how we can possibly support this. So I'm very happy to support my colleagues' recommendations for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
And by the way, if I don't see anybody, there's that thing in the way. So please, if you don't think I'm seeing you, please shout. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I could just say ditto, but I'll go into more detail. Because under most circumstances, this would be an acceptable application, certainly in regard to farm diversification and employment, etc. But unfortunately, the location for this one is unsuitable for such a venue. I'd suggest that it's unwise to highlight the quiet rural location as being a key attraction when up to 220 people are expected to make merry. And arriving and departing at roughly the same time through a small linear village with a single tortuous street and very low ambient noise levels. I can't imagine any voluntary noise strategy being effective on the averagely merry wedding party in the early hours. And irrespective of any limited attempts at forming passing places on the village street, significant waves of traffic, mainly in one direction, are inevitably going to create problems and conflict, and as Snowy said, as they notably did on our site visit, and even on my bike I had trouble getting past. I've got deep concerns with this one about the conflicts between the noise consultant's reports of the applicant and the objectors, which appear to go beyond objective differences. I'm not happy at all about that. So, in conclusion, we as a committee have to find the balance between the benefits and the potential harm, and sadly in this case I believe that it could be the right application, but in completely the wrong place. So I too will be supporting the refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Does anybody else wish to say anything? Councillor Thackeray.
Yes, just to echo really what Councillor Potter says, it's having studied the plans and the CGI, it looks like a fantastic wedding venue, but like Councillor Potter says, I can't see how you can reconcile the noise disturbance to the residents of Sproxton. I do think there are ways in which the venue itself could be relatively soundproofed with airlock doors, of which I know a little bit about, and I have mentioned to an individual with this application in mind, which isn't intended to be humorous, but the idea of using a minibus that's powered by electricity that makes no sound to transport members of the public there and out of the village in relative silence. There may be a scope for this to come back at some point in time when a lot of these issues have been further addressed, I think.
Thank you. If nobody else wishes to speak, we'll move to the vote. The motion is the officer's recommendation, which is a motion of refusal. So can we have those in favour, please?
Chairman, I think we need to, for the purposes of the record, just go down the names again, because we haven't got electronic voting this evening. So if I quickly go down that, which is a vote for refusal as recommended. Councillor Andrews.
Approve the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Brackstone.
Approve the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary.
For.
Councillor Goodrick.
For refusal.
Councillor Hope. Councillor Mason.
For refusal.
Councillor Potter.
For.
Councillor Thackeray. And Councillor Windris.
For.
That's unanimous, 9 votes to 0, Chairman.
Right, well that's the decision in that case. We now move on to item number 7, which is the listed building application, which, as the planning officer says, is a completely different decision that we have to make.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I have nothing really to report in the way of an update to the report on the agenda papers. Clearly, in terms of the physical works that are proposed to the building conservation officer is happy and raises no objection. So actually, this is one of those occasions where the listed building consent application we would recommend approval to you. Obviously, we have had some objections to this as well, but the officer recommendation is one of approval. There are no speakers on this item, Chairman.
Do members wish to raise any questions, or could we go straight to the debate? In that case, we will go straight to the debate. Again, I think it's Councillor Windris, if he wishes to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have one concern about the... I can't find the late pages on my computer, but there was one condition that about the material of, was it one of the doorways that the officer put in, not knowing what the materials were, and it's a listed building. That was my only concern. But other than that, I'll move the officer recommendation again. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Do you wish to speak?
Briefly, Chairman, I remember very well from the site visit looking at the range of buildings that need saving. They're proper old-fashioned range of buildings which can't be used easily by modern agriculture. I think both Councillor Thacker and I looked at a number of items that we thought these buildings are in desperate need of saving. So if there's some way of using these buildings, having these works completed, so be it. So it's all the better for it.
Does anybody else wish to say anything? Can we then move to the vote, and the recommendation is approval? Would you like to take the vote, Gary?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just quickly go down members' names. Councillor Andrews, this is a vote for approval.
For?
Councillor Brackstone.
For.
Councillor Cleary.
For.
Councillor Goodrick.
Abstain.
Councillor Hope.
For.
Councillor Mason.
For.
Councillor Potter. Councillor Thackeray. Councillor Windress.
For.
Right, thank you, Chairman. That's 8 votes for approval and 1 abstention, Chairman.
Thank you. Then that is approved. We then go on to item number 8, the Mill, the Main Street, Motherby, Moulton. We've had a report on this. We've attended a site visit. A lot of correspondence has come in since then, and there's been a legal report as well. Gary, could you bring us up to date, please?
Chairman, I think Neve's actually going to be the case officer updating members on this. So I'll just pass over to Eve just for that purpose. Obviously, members have had some additional documents this evening, so you may wish to refer to those. We received the legal opinion that members had asked us to obtain in relation to intensification of use, which we've shared with you in full. So you've got that in front of you.
Can I ask a question, though? I'd just like to point out here that I literally picked up the legal opinion at 5:30 tonight after work, and I really find it hard for me to digest this information in time for a meeting at 6. In the future, can we make sure we get this information before that? Because it's, this is a serious application, and I think we all need to read it properly.
Chairman, as the Chairman well knows, we've been chasing this for several days. We got it at 3:15 this afternoon. So as soon as we got it, we read it and emailed it to you. So, it's as quickly as we could get it. As opinions go, it's fairly brief. But I accept that, it's been received today, and that's not ideal. It's something that we've also expressed a view about.
Do you wish to proceed, Neve?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As you're well aware, this proposal is seeking planning permission for the erection of an extension to the existing feed bins to allow the installation of an additional 12 bulk outloading feeding bins for animals feed storage, together with an integral weigh bridge. If we could just go to the aerial photograph, I won't go through the presentation as I did last time, and you have had the benefit of the site visit, which was undertaken on Monday the 21st of June. So in terms of an update, as Gary has noted, following the request from the Parish Council and members of Planning Committee, the Council engaged an independent barrister from King's Chambers for a legal view on potential intensification and whether there's a material change of use at the BATA site. The latest information from the Parish Council, including a letter from KVA Planning dated the 28th of June, was also provided to Council to help them formulate their opinion. This information from the Parish Council and KVA was also added to the late pages, so you've had the opportunity to read that. As we've discussed, the response from Council was provided to the Local Planning Authority this afternoon, and a wholly unredacted copy of this confidential information was provided to members as soon as we could provide that. And it's also, as well as via email, it's also in written form on your desk today. This, sorry, excuse me, this report concludes that the Council noted, in my opinion, the conclusion in the officer's report that there has been no intensification is legally sound. As a matter of law, even if there has been intensification, but the new use remains in the same use class as the permitted use class of the land, then that will be permissible. Further information was also provided from BATA on the 5th of June 2021, and this was provided to Council and members, which confirmed on the HGV movements in and out of the factory and also production figures in terms of the mill output. That has also been provided to members by email and on your desks, but just to kind of quickly cover that, in 2019, the output from the mill was 45,000 tonnes of feed. In 2020, that rose to 50,000 tonnes of feed, and in 2021, they're on track to make, again, 50,000 tonnes of feed. So that can give you an appreciation of the levels of output in recent years. Sorry, excuse me. The levels of bulk deliveries incoming and outbound were also confirmed in that document. Therefore, in conclusion, it's both officers' view and the view of the Independent Council that there has been no material change that constitutes either a change of use or intensification at BATA. It remains a mixed-use premises that continues to incorporate the historic mill building, albeit operating in a modern 21st century context. And in planning terms, that hasn't resulted in any discordance with any planning permissions. Therefore, in our view, it's not reasonable or correct to seek reapplication for what is considered to be a lawful use. And as members will be aware, there is a document on your desks this evening, which is a letter from the doctor of the occupier of number 1 Ryedale Cottages, to confirm that the occupier feels they are experiencing significant health impacts as a result of noise, and this is having an impact on their sleep. This letter has been redacted where appropriate, but the message is there and clear for members to appreciate. Sorry, excuse me. In terms of the separate noise nuisance investigations at the site, separate to this planning application, members are aware that the issue pertaining to the grinder house fan was satisfactorily concluded and closed in March 2021. A second noise investigation is presently ongoing as the environmental health team have received allegations of a new noise source issue, but again, this isn't related to this specific proposal. The environmental health team have offered to meet with the complainant to further discuss this, and this will be fully investigated. The environmental health officer has also confirmed that these complaints, in his opinion, are not related to the ongoing planning application. And as previously noted, the NOVA noise report, which was undertaken to the appropriate British standards, has identified that the new build proposed as part of this application will not have a significant impact upon noise at the factory. As we discussed last time, there will be no observed effect level at the nearest noise-sensitive receptors during the daytime, and a 2 dB noise level increase against the identified background levels at night time as a result of this activity. And the EHOs have reconfirmed that in their view, this is acceptable in this location. But, as before, should anything happen in the future, this would be separately investigated under the environmental protection legislation, as has been the case to date. It's therefore considered that whilst there have been a varied number of responses raising concerns in relation to amenity, following a review of the incoming supporting information, including the noise assessment and the noise management plan, to which a clear commitment has been made, it's not considered that this proposed operational development to support BATA would result in additional material harm to residential amenity. And therefore, officers are recommending approval subject to the recommended conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now go on to the speakers. Could we first of all have Mrs. Ballard? Are you there, Mrs. Ballard?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Right. I don't know if you can see me, but I can see myself on the screen.
That's good. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. From the previous item 6, it seems we're not alone with noise problems, but I will continue with my speech. The Parish Council would like to thank KVA Planning Consultancy for their extensive and knowledgeable report, and we sincerely hope that members have fully understood it. In our far simpler view, these proposed bins are the end of the whole milling process and will at least double the current storage capacity. To utilise these, production is likely to further increase, stated in the BATA Director's report as an intention, so necessitating the continuing 24/7 operation of the mill. It is the whole milling process that produces noise, not just the operation of the bins. Currently, this is around or above 55 decibels at the nearest properties and over 42 decibels over much of the village, even in the middle of the night. On occasions when the mill is off, nighttime background noise levels are between 35 and 41 decibels, varying with weather conditions, and this is what should be expected in a countryside setting. At present, workers arrive and some lorry traffic starts well before 6 AM, which wakes and disturbs many residents of the village. Please refuse this application or impose strict conditions. Consider whether you would like to live nearby and what life is like for those who do. If members are minded to approve the application, we ask that conditions should be imposed. Noise levels for the whole site should have an absolute cap of 42 decibels imposed during night hours of 10 PM to 7 AM, as recommended by numerous government and WHO guidelines. And lorry movements should be restricted to after 7 AM and end at 7 PM. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Mrs. Sally Rains, please? Are you there, Mrs. Rains?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. BATA claims that HGVs will be reduced by installing these 12 bins. There are no figures to substantiate this claim. If BATA are expanding the feed side of the business, then HGVs will increase, bringing in extra raw materials. The feed is currently in tote bags around the site, presumably indoors. What will they do with the warehouse space once the feed is in the bins? It then opens the potential for more HGVs moving stock in and out of the site. Increase of HGVs because of increased storage needs to be taken into consideration. Sorry, I've got my notes mixed up here.
We'll pause the clock.
Sorry. Okay, because of increased production, which requires the new bins, the amenity of all the residents is being affected, not just my family. I have recently spoken to my doctor, and you've obviously seen the letter. The planning committee needs to accept that these 12 bins are part of a whole milling production process and that BAT have stated they are going to expand. Please put in conditions to control the noise levels as per the World Health Organization guidance and your own planning policy, or my health is only going to get worse from the effects of poor sleep and other disturbances caused by BATA. I urge you to put in conditions of the highest standards to protect the Motherby residents now and in the future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We now go on to questions, and I have some questions, but I'll bring them in at the end. Councillor Thackeray.
Yes, thank you. Looking at the letter from, I presume it's to Mr. Chris Abel, and I think it is information submitted by BATA. There is a sentence which I would like clarification on, please. It says, the tonnage we are producing is well within the permitted volume level of our council-approved permit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I conversed with the Chief Executive of BATA on our site visit, I believe he told me, and I will stand corrected if my memory is incorrect, that the council-approved permit for production is 300,000 tonnes. I would like that clarifying, please. And what is the proposed increase in production of BATA for the next 2 to 3 years going forward? I think these figures are incredibly important to gain a better understanding of the proposed increase in activity in the village. Thank you. No, I don't think Neve's got the answer to that question here now.
Well, Councillor Thackeray, if we haven't got the answers, you will be able to raise that in debate. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, it's just to reiterate that they have expressed in their director's report they were going to expand operations. So my question is actually on the sentence above, having just really digested this letter as well, is they've admitted increasing their production tonnage by 11% from 2019 to 2021. What is going to be the expanded production after these bins have gone in? Because they say in the director's report in 2020 that they're going to expand their production. So they've committed to expansion.
Can you answer that question, Neve? No?
No. Whenever we had approached BATA with questions from members, we had asked for the mill output and HGV movements in and out of the factory over the last 2.5 to 3 years. I think it may have been useful to also ask about any kind of projected increase, but I do believe within the previous information, and I'll have to check, but I think there was confirmation that this wouldn't result in increases. Rather, it would help in terms of, the on-site organisation, moving away from tote bags and being able to load directly from the bins themselves.
I mean,
Mason?
my follow-on from that would be, did this information get to the legal opinion? Was this used in deliberation? So they had this production information as well? And did they have information on future production?
Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Chairman. We've been requested by both speakers to impose conditions on traffic timings and also noise. Is there any way that we can, as a planning department, impose conditions on existing businesses?
I think there's a judgment call there, Chairman, in terms of where a condition is reasonable to do that. That's not something we've recommended to you, that you seek to impose an hours condition, for example. In terms of the activity that we were asked to put to council, which was, has there been an intensification that would result in a material change of use? One of those issues was in relation to the increase in activity and HGV movements that was being already claimed to be a material change of use. So in other words, there'd been expansion going up to the level that Neve had put forward through Glenn to the barrister. So what effectively the barrister is saying at the point that we currently know where we think where we are, is that there's been no material change of use, so that it would be essentially unreasonable to seek to try and control vehicular activity where you've got something where there isn't any development requiring planning permission. So in itself, this started out as an application for some increased feed bins on a small part of the site. So as it stands here, sitting here today, we wouldn't suggest that it would be reasonable to impose those sorts of conditions.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, funnily enough, I'd picked out the exactly those same bits from the letter about increasing production tonnage by 11%, which doesn't quite tally with the figures above because everything's staying level, and the same thing about the council permit. Anyway, I've got a couple of questions. KVA